Thank you for tuning in to part 2 of a special edition of Community Focus. I'm your host, Previn Jones. Today we continue the Living Legends Leadership Series with legislator and public servant, State Representative Sylvester Turner. From Acres Homes to Harvard University to the Texas House of Representatives, Mr. Turner's story reveals that hard work, perseverance, and faith are the key ingredients to your personal success. Stay tuned in as we explore the life and work of a true living legend. State Representative Sylvester Turner, coming up right now.
Today, I went to church. Quite frankly, I stayed for 2 services, not just one. And before I left, I stopped by to see my mom, 86 years old, been suffering with Alzheimer's for 7.5 years. We have providers around the clock, 24/7. And I believe in large part, that's why she's still alive. 4 years ago, the doctor said put her in hospice. We took her home, put providers around the clock, family rallied around her. 4 years later, with God's blessings, she is still here. But we can afford those providers. We can afford to have them with my mom. And in part, you know why? Because her children are educated, and her children are working, and her children are taking care of her. But today in this budget, you are cutting the future of the children of the state of Texas. And you will not just hurt them. You'll hurt those who are yet to come. I can't vote for it. And I will not. I won't vote for it. And neither should you. Because it's not about the Senate to save us. If this is the Texas House, then the Texas House needs to stand up. This budget I cannot and will not support because it hurts too many when it should not. And it's not about this governor. It's about our districts. Representative Christian, and for all the rest of you, if you hurt in your district and you need help, I will stand with you. And it doesn't matter whether we're Democrats and Republicans. At the end of the day, we are either Texans and we go up together, or we are Texans and we go down together. This budget is not worthy of the Texas House of Representatives.
Representative Turner, first let me thank you for allowing the viewers across the great state of Texas an opportunity to hear directly from you what you hope to accomplish during the 83rd legislative session. But before I go to Austin,
okay,
I want to go back home to
All
a
right.
place that's near and dear to your heart.
Okay, where is that? Acres Home?
A place that helped to nurture you
Okay.
in the most plastic years of your life, Acres Homes. What was it like growing up in the Turner household, and what was put in you in that home that helped you get from Acres Homes to Harvard University?
Amen. Some committed parents, mother and a father, who grew up in Washington County, Chapel Hill, Brenham, who moved to Houston Acres Home in 1954. And there are 9 kids in Acres Home, 2-bedroom home.
Wow.
You know, but some very loving parents. Neither one of them graduated from high school, but that's I don't count that as a negative because they were very devoted to their kids. Gave us some strong work ethic, some strong values. Attended a church not about a mile away, Magnolia Missionary Baptist Church, right in Acres Home. Starting off, I didn't go there too often. You know, I had to be made to go. I went at Christmas time and Easter for the Easter eggs and the Christmas baskets. So grew up there, and then of course my dad died early. Dad died of cancer when I was 13. So my mom became the captain of the ship, and steered the ship in extraordinary ways. And so moved membership to another church, New Bethel, out in Northeast Houston. I went there, and then the rest of my family members went to a church called Mount Ararat in Acres Home. And I stayed at New Bethel, and that's where the pastor there kind of took me under his wings. And my mom just continued to work at the old Rice Hotel as a maid, and shepherd us through. So Acres Home is a small knit community, only 2 streets to take you in or bring you out. But everybody knew everybody. You didn't have to lock your doors. It was that old-fashioned, down-home community. It was a strong sense of community, and I was just very proud to have come from there, and I'm fortunate to this day to still represent that area in the legislature.
Losing your father at a very young age, considering the man that you have become, what do you think he would say to you if he were here now, seeing who you've become?
Well, I would like to think that my dad would be proud of what I've been able to accomplish. I'm standing on his shoulders.
Yes, sir.
I mean, look, I saw my dad diagnosed with cancer, but that didn't stop him. He worked at Continental EMSCO as a painter for nearly 30 years, and at the same time on weekends, he cut other people's yards. So he loaded his boys up in the back of a pickup truck and went across town. And saw my dad fall down because the cancer was eating him up. He had leukemia, was eating him up. But I also saw him pull himself right back up. Same thing at the house. Saw him fall down. I saw him pull himself right back up. And he didn't complain. He chose not to go to the hospital for the chemo and all that, in large part because he didn't have private health insurance. Okay, so didn't have Blue Cross Blue Shield. But his work ethic and his commitment to his family was very, very strong. And I've tried to emulate that.
Yes.
My daddy had a strong sense of who he was. He placed a great deal of value in his name. The Turner name was very important. And my dad would tell all 9 of us when we're getting ready to go out or leave his house, you're leaving my house with my name in good standing. Bring my name back to this house the way you've taken it from this house.
Yes.
So that always resonated with me. So I would like to think that my dad would be proud of what I've been able to accomplish. And the same thing with my mom, Yes.
You talked about certain members of your church that helped you while you were in college. I've heard you tell a story about that. Can you tell the viewers about that and how important it is for the community to embrace our young people, not with just words, but deeds?
Yeah. Well, there are several people who played a vital role, in my upbringing. At New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, for example, there was a woman by the name of Evelina Muldrew, a senior, in her, at that time, let's say in her 70s. And when I would come in from law school and come in, Ms. Evelina Muldrew would come up to me after church and hug me and say, little Turner, I'm praying for you, wishing you well. And when she pulled back, she would leave a $5 bill in my hand. And every time that I saw her, it would be the same thing. Little Turner, how things? Wishing you well. I'm praying for you. Hug me, and would leave a $5 bill in my hand. Well, it may not seem a whole lot in the overall scheme of things, but coming from Miss Muldrew from Acres Home, a senior, that meant a great deal.
Yes.
So, when I reflect back on my life, so to speak, that was a brick that was laid upon which I'm walking. Eugene Gully, for example, was another. He was an electrician, and he took me under his wings as an apprentice. During the summers, I worked with him. In fact, he had me crawling underneath people's houses. You would say we were wiring people's homes, and he would go to the other side of the house and tell me, take the wire and crawl underneath. I met a whole lot of things.
Wow.
And then would send me up into the roof. he didn't tell me not to walk on the what you call it, the plywood. So I walked on it one time and fell right through a lady's kitchen.
Wow.
You know, but he took me under his wing, and I appreciate that. Same thing with my pastor. So I have a lot of people who have planted seeds in my life, and without them, I would not be here today.
I know your faith is very important to you. Has your faith ever been tested to the point where you wanted to quit?
Well, you know, well, the question, the answer to that is absolutely. You know, I mean, man, look, there were times in law school, you know, you question things and you want to kind of throw in the towel, but you hang in there. When I finished law school, came back. When I ran for mayor, for example, in 1991. You know, you play by the rules, you do what your parents say do, you put yourself out there, and the attacks come, and you say to yourself, you know, life is unfair, or, you know, people are fine with you when they see the positives, and then when a negative comes, people that you think are going to be there may not be there, they walk away from you, so you can't count on them as much. And then sometimes the very people that you fight for are sometimes the people that becomes your harshest critics. And you wonder whether or not, you know, God has abandoned you, okay? And so, yeah, there have been times when my own faith has been challenged, but at the same time, it is that same faith that kind of catches you, and you're reminded that, you know, you have to be able to weather the storm. Life is not fair, and just like the sun will shine, the rain will also come.
Yes.
And there's no use having any faith if you're never tested.
Yes.
So the time when faith is important is when you are tested.
Yes.
You know, even if somebody that has it all and things are going well, that's not necessarily a testament of their strength. But what happens when you don't have it? And what happens when you don't know how you're going to pay the bill the next day, or whether or not you're going to get well, or when you get a negative report? That's when the faith steps in, when you have to keep going when you don't know where you're heading. So it's been tested, but God has always been true.
Yes, yes.
And so I've utilized that in my professional career. I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still moving. And it's not because I'm so smart or so bright, but I do recognize that there is a higher source, a higher being, and I rely on that, and that has never failed me.
I want to switch gears to your work in Austin now.
Yes.
Dr. King said that budgets are moral documents.
That is true.
Speaks to our values and our priorities.
That's true.
Last session I heard you give one of the most passionate speeches I've ever heard from any legislative chamber. Where does that passion come from, and how do we stir it up in the people?
Well, I think we all recognize that we are products of what people put into our lives. And when I say what people put into our lives, the investments that people put into our lives. If people don't invest, there is no return. If people hold back on the investment, it's very difficult for things to prosper and to grow. I'm a product because people invested in my life. My mom, for example, has Alzheimer's right now. But she's still at 3005 Starlings, where I was born and reared, where the house that my daddy purchased in 1954. You know, we've remodeled in this stuff, but she's still there because it's important for her to remain in a very comfortable environment. And when the doctor said that put her in hospice and we took her home, that was 4.5 years ago. She's still here today. And I think in large part it's because she's in a familiar environment where her kids are working.
Yes.
Okay? Her kids can afford to have providers there around the clock. But that's because people invested in our lives to put us in a position to be educated, to be able to do some things now that's benefiting, for example, my mom, who did so much for us. Well, if it worked for me, the fact that other people invested in me, it will work for other kids. But we've got to invest in their lives. So when you look at the state's budget, and if we are cutting dramatically, for example, from public education, that tells you that something is not right. Something's not morally right. when we're not investing, for example, in health care for our children and for seniors, that's a moral document. It reflects who we are and who our values are. So those are the things that I refer to in the legislature. That it is, I agree with Dr. Martin Luther King, it is a moral document. And if you look at anybody's budget, the state's budget, or if you look at your own checkbook, and just go down the line and see where you spend. Are you spending your money on the liquor store? Okay. Are you spending your money on books? Are you spending your money on clothes? Are you spending your money on your mortgage? I mean, it will tell you what your priorities are. Are you contributing to charitable organizations? Are you giving to the church? If you're a member of the church, how much are you giving? You know, I ought to be able to look at your checkbook, your own personal checkbook, and identify the priorities the purpose has in his life. Well, the same thing applies to the state government, or to city government, or to the national government. You can look down the budget, and you can identify what those priorities are. And I think far too often we've missed, and it does reflect our own morals and our values and what we believe in.
You talked about the 127,000 children, I believe, that were not going to be on the CHIP rolls because of that budget. And you mentioned one young man in particular, DeMonte Johnson.
DeMonte Johnson, yeah.
Yes. Can you talk about what happened with that situation?
Well, DeMonte was had cancer at stage 4, and he applied for the Children's Health Insurance Program, the CHIP program, and he had been turned down. His parents, his mother applied, a working mother, and the program is for working parents. And she applied for health insurance, the CHIP program, in order to get cancer treatment for her son. She had been denied. She contacted my office. And the waiting period, this was like 4 to 6 months, where she had been trying and been denied. Well, we finally were able to get her qualified for the CHIP program. We believe she would qualify from the very first time she applied. And so 4 to 6 months later, we finally got her son in the CHIP program. But by that time, the cancer had advanced. It had gone too far. And Devontae, I think at that time was 14, wasn't able to make it. Well, Devontae happened to have been a member of my church. So I went to the funeral. I was there. I spoke. And said to Devontae's mom and to his other siblings and others who were there, is that we can do better. And made a commitment that I would go back to Austin and fight even harder for the Devontaes of the world, for these kids and these moms and fathers who qualified for health insurance, but the bureaucratic maze was keeping them from getting it in a timely fashion. And made my appeal to the members of the Texas House, to Republicans and Democrats alike. And in Devontae's name, we were able to pass that bill. I think it was House Bill 109, if I'm not mistaken, that provided additional coverage for thousands of kids like Devontae, who are now on the Children's Health Insurance Program, who are now getting what they need in order to live another day, another month, another year, and hopefully many, many more years. And so Devontae lost his life, but because of the sacrifice that he made and his mom made, many other, thousands of other kids are benefiting from his life.
You've been able to reach across the aisle to work with your Republican colleagues. How have you been able to pierce the partisan veil, if you will, to get things done in Austin, considering all the partisan bickering?
Yeah. Well, you know, life is about relationships. You know, if I think you get what you see. Okay. But life is about relationships. It's easy to vote against someone that you don't know. It's much more difficult to vote against a friend. It's easy to fight against someone that you don't know. But with friends, you find ways to try to see if you can get there. And that's the way I operate. I don't necessarily see people as D's or R's. I'm in the Texas legislature. I see people as Texans. We are all Texans. We either go up together, we come down together, but we are Texans. And I think the best way to build support is to be true to who you are. I'm not interested in trying to be somebody else. You know, I am Sylvester Turner. I'm from Acres Home. I come out of a family of 9. You know, this is who I am. I believe that there in a God and somebody that's greater than I, and that's how I approach people. And I think it's like my dad said. Every person has to have a word. My yay must mean yay. My yes must mean yes. My no must mean no. Okay? So if I tell you I'm with you, I'm with you. If I tell you I'm not with you, I'm not with you. I don't like personalities. I don't want to get involved in personalities. But I know what I believe in. And so in the legislature, I try to deal on that same level. You know, I see people for who they are. You know, I can't change you. You know, God made you. God made you for a purpose, so I accept you for who you are. But I do believe that we have a lot more in common than our differences. And so in the legislature, I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna hear you out. And if I'm with you, I'm with you. But if I'm not, it's not that I'm against you, the person. But I certainly may not be in support of the policy that you advocate. And at the end of the day, if I think it gets too tense, you know, I think I got a sense of humor, so I'll break the ice and try to say something, and we'll laugh about it. You know, it's hard to fight when you're laughing, man. You know, it's just hard to do. But they're good people. You know, we divide ourselves based by labels, but that doesn't mean that we're against each other. You know, and just like my mom and my dad said, you know, you try to find the best in folk. In the very best, there is some bad. And in the worst, there is some good. And you can't sacrifice the good seeking the perfect. So there's got to be some give and take. And I have to recognize that you come from your particular frame of reference. I come from mine. Now let's see if we can find some place where we can meet.
I remember a story that is often told about when A. Philip Randolph had the opportunity to get an audience with FDR. Mm-hmm. And A. Philip Randolph laid out his agenda after dinner, and the president said, I agree with everything you have said. Now go out and make me do it. How do we hold our elected officials accountable, and how do we, the people, help you be successful in Austin?
Well, I think you have to recognize that I am a representative of the people who send me. Okay, the people in my district. I come out of District 139 in Northwest Houston. They don't work for me. I work for them. You know, I'm their representative. The seat doesn't belong to me. It is not mine. They've entrusted in me. Okay. And as long as I maintain my trust with them, and I'm effective, then then they can continue to vote for me. But I think what people have to understand is that they can raise their voices. Okay, they have the power to speak to us and to expect from us to be and to hold us accountable. But it also requires, you have to educate yourself. It's important to know who your state representative is. Mm-hmm. If I go out, for example, and I ask people, who's your state representative? Who's your state senator? Who's your county commissioner? Who's your city council person? Most folk, irrespective of where people live, probably won't know. So, I have a job. It's my responsibility to do what I can to educate the people in my district, to raise their level of expectation, for them to expect more of me, but I'm also expecting more of them. And but the power in a democracy vests in the people themselves. The people have more power than I do, and I think they have to constantly remind themselves that I have the power to say to Sylvester, I think you are wrong on this, or I don't like what you're doing on this. And I also have the power to replace you, and I have the power to continue to support you. So I think sometimes, in a democracy, people relinquish that, and they glorify the personality, And what I try to tell the people in my district, as well as others, is that collectively we are strong, you know, but you have to, you know, you have to demand more. Even Martin Luther King said that, you know, those who are the oppressor will not voluntarily relinquish. You know, it's up for those who are oppressed to demand it. So that's, you know, so we're all in this together, and but the seed is not mine.
Over 25 years of public service, when the historians look back on this time period in history, what do you hope they will say about Sylvester Turner?
Well, you know, certainly history will say something. I don't know. It's look. I think all of us want to, at the end of our journey, whenever that is, you would like to think that the world is better for you having been here than when you started the journey. If my district, for example, is not better now than it was when I started, I've done something wrong, okay? If the footprint, hopefully the footprint will be clear for somebody else to follow, okay? The example that I've used before that I like, you know, I never forget when my daughter was getting ready to go off to college, San Antonio, and she had the car. She hadn't been driving that long, but she really wanted a car. She really wanted a car to go to school, and I relented, you know, but she hadn't been driving that long, and I told Ashley, okay, I'm gonna drive. I want you to follow me, because I wanted to see how she was gonna handle it, and we got on I-10, and I told her before we got started, I said, okay, follow me. And just kind of do what I do, stay behind me, you know. So got on I-10, and she was behind me. Got on, and I sped up, okay. And I was watching, and she sped up right behind me. And then when I moved over into a lane to kind of go around the traffic, you know, she moved over as well. When I got back to move into the other lane, she followed. And I sped up some more because I wanted to see, you know, if she can handle it. And she stayed right with Dad. Well, about halfway, I said to myself, I think she can handle this, and there's no reason for me to go any further. So I called on my cell, and I said, at the next exit, Dad is getting off. Now it's time for you to go head on, you know. And she said, okay, Dad. I pulled off. She moved on. Well, service is like that, you know. You do the best you can in order to provide the roadmap and the footprint for others to follow, to go further than you have been able to take them, okay? And you ought to be effective enough in your service that others can follow, and you can feel confident that you can pull to the shoulder and the people behind you can go even further. That's what I want, you know, because I can't take them all the way, but I can certainly point them in a better way. And if I've done my job well, they'll go even further than where I've been able to take them even further.
Mr. Turner, thank you for your time. Let you get back to Austin.
Hey, thank you.
To take care of people's business.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
God bless you.
Thank you. Same to you.